inclusivity is something that's very close to my heart. By the way, my granny was a special needs educator.
Oh, really?
Her attitude was, get on with it.
Yeah.
That was very much her attitude, kind of across the board.
Yeah.
She never was somebody who would get nervous around, oh, I don't know if they can, I don't know if they can't.
Yeah.
You know, which I think, especially around special needs, is one of the problems when people start going, but maybe they don't want that.
Yes.
Maybe they can't do that.
Yes. Or
No.
just keep them happy. Sit them at home, watch TV. It's really bad. It's a really bad kind of way to approach it.
Yeah, my granny was very much, sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Get on with it. Can you tell us a little bit more about what inclusive education is from your perspective, and what are just talk about that.
Very simply, I think inclusive education is the same in the same schools, in the same classes with regular kids. And I think people have to wrap their head around the fact that there is the diversity in our world, in our community, in our societies. And it's no use kind of like pretending that this diversity doesn't exist.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So, thank you very much. Part one, we had a nice framing of our conversation, your background, Down syndrome in Malaysia, special needs more broadly as a community within Malaysia, inclusivity. So, inclusivity is something that's very close to my heart. By the way, my granny was a special needs educator.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes, yeah. So it was my dad's mom, and she was the one who lived kind of closest to the family. It was 3 hours away still, but I was very close with my granny, and she was like a very typical Scottish granny. I had
In what way?
Well, when I went to hers, right, sometimes I had a cold or something. One time I was quite bad with the flu. Burning the candle at both ends, age 18, 19.
Oh, okay.
You know how it gets. And she made me a thing called a hot toddy.
Oh.
You know what's a hot toddy?
Yeah.
It's a Scottish thing, right? But my granny had her own recipe.
Right.
So it starts with good amount of honey, lemon. She used to put turmeric in it as well.
Okay.
And about this much whiskey.
Yeah.
Hot water. She mix it up. And my granny says to me, she says... HJ, she always called me. She says, right, get this down you. And I'm in the doorway. She says, don't sit down. Don't tell me how much you enjoy it. Get it down you. I'm in the doorway like this, starting to have a sip. And I would say, oh, this is lovely. What hot tub. She just like this. Lifts up the mug. Go. Now, brush your teeth and straight to bed. Very typical granny. Yeah, and then you realise,
nice. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Lay down in bed, everything starts spinning. Yeah. Nah, she was great. And she was one of these people who was very strong-willed. So her husband passed away when my dad was 4. So she was a single mom.
Right.
And especially for that generation, it was a huge challenge. And so she retrained as a teacher, so she would get the school holidays, and then ended up, I don't know exactly how or why, but ended up in the special needs. But this was a very long time ago.
So imagine, right, at that time when she was doing special needs.
40 years ago, I
what
think.
kind of society it would have been like for people with special needs.
Yeah, but she was one of these people with a certain attitude, and I think I'm not educated in special needs education, but I do think attitude goes a long way, and her attitude was, get on with it.
Yeah.
That was very much her attitude, kind of across the board,
Yeah.
and was one of these people who she had a great appreciation of character. So the thing that she would say these kind of outlandish statements, out of pocket statements, but they were true. They were her observations, and was that bluntness, but also straightforwardness. Just get on with it. And she never was somebody who would get nervous around, oh, I don't know if they can, I don't know if they can't.
Yeah.
Which I think, especially around special needs, is one of the problems when people start going, but maybe they don't want that.
Yes.
Maybe they can't do that.
Yes. Or
No.
just keep them happy.
No,
you know,
I-
sit them at home, watch TV. You know, it's really bad. It's a really bad kind of way to approach it.
Yeah, my granny was very much sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Get on with it. You know,
Yeah.
you'll do that,
Yep.
and was the details sort themselves out. You know.
Yep.
So yeah, so it was one of those things that I didn't speak with my granny a huge amount about it. But I had asked some questions, and she told me about some kind of individual cases, but she never really made a big deal about it either. It was just get on
Yep.
with it.
Yep.
Get on with it. And so inclusive education is something that I grew up doing at Choi Kwan Do, and that was probably my positive experience of education, because I hated school, like quite a lot of people. And so Choi Kwan Do was where I was learning in like a positive environment. I was very fortunate that my mum took on Choi Kwan Do really significantly, and she had her own school, and it wasn't a school that needed to generate money. It was a not-for-profit.
Right.
So she reinvested the earnings into having instructors visit. We went to seminars. I got to go to America to international seminar when I was a kid. Right. And we had seminars in Scotland. We had the summer camps with an instructor from Argentina. You know, like it was
Wow.
really cool.
Yep,
we had
yep,
really
yep.
cool experiences. And it's always very special when you have a guest instructor and these types of things. But Choi Kwan Do, it's really, really about the individual's journey. And so when I learned, for me, it just made sense. It's something that is like innate. It's a core philosophy of Choi Kwan Do. I get it because I grew up in it. I ended up working in it, and I've proliferated it. But inclusive education, when you look at it in terms of mainstream, right? So that's where I'm coming from with it. We heard where you're coming from with it. To me, it's really, really positive for not only the people who, like, forget about you don't think that it's just for people with special needs or who are somehow beneficiaries.
Yes.
An inclusive education environment benefits everybody.
Yes.
End of story.
Yes.
Even however neurotypical somebody is,
Yep.
bearing in mind, a lot of people who are neurotypical are not truly neurotypical. If they
Yes.
did their ASD test or whatever, they'd
Yep.
find that there's a little bit on the spectrum. Also, some people, they're not, a lot of people don't feel normal.
Yep.
A lot of people feel like this standard of normal or typical, especially the way that it's proliferated with social media
Yep.
and the way that it's represented. A lot of people don't feel confident
Yep.
that is kind of who they are, or that they fit a mold. An inclusive environment, when you have, it creates this on a kind of the extreme or the more severe ends. You have people who are having a significant challenge being a member of society,
Yep.
and they're included. But also for people who are just slightly out of sorts,
Yep.
who just are slightly odd, or who don't really necessarily fit in certain situations.
Yep.
They're now in an environment which is much more suited to them. And that includes students who are maybe academically gifted but socially challenged.
Yep.
Or socially gifted, academically challenged. Or people like a bit more what I was like. Great if I like it, horrible if I don't. If it's something that interests me, like those kids that love dinosaurs. They know all the dinosaurs.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you ask them about something else, and they really can struggle to learn.
Yeah, suddenly, the energy becomes very low, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you say, hey, do you know your Pokemon? They know all 151. They know everything, whatever. But then other topics they could really, really struggle to adapt to. So inclusive education, in terms of international schools, can you tell us a bit more about your experience of inclusive education? I listened to your webinar that you did with Dr. Vincent. Can you tell us a little bit more about what inclusive education is from your perspective, and what are just talk about that?
Very simply, I think inclusive education is the same in the same schools, in the same classes with regular kids. And I think people have to wrap their head around the fact that there is the diversity in our world, in our community, in our societies. And it's no use kind of like pretending that this diversity doesn't exist, right? You need to accept this fact. So actually, it's not even asking about large amounts of large numbers of special needs people in schools and everything. It's just allowing, if every school actually was welcoming to a individual with special needs, they would just they would go to their neighborhood school. They would just occur naturally as they do in regular population, right? In a regular society. This is only because there's people who are not very inclusive, then a lot of them have to go to suddenly to one school that accepts them. And sometimes maybe the schools that accept them, after a while they get a bit overwhelmed also because everybody is going there. I can tell you this, like for example, my daughter goes to a Kumon center very near the Dojang in Hartamas. He's a very, very nice guy who runs the center, Teacher Ramdan. He's very good. He has accepted a lot of kids with special needs and a lot of them with Down syndrome because of me also. But after a while, he has to spread them out in different time slots because he can't be handling so many in one time slot. They may take a little bit more time to guide and correct their work and everything. So he will tell you, oh, you come at 11 o'clock, you come at 2 p.m., we have to spread them out. And after a while, so I have to tell the other parents, you all can't go to that center. You got to find another center because otherwise it just overwhelms this person. And then maybe he will not be so open already. So we have to be careful. Even our kindergarten also had this problem. So so they need to, and the main thing about inclusive education is like the child with special needs has to be in a mainstream setting with other children who are neurotypical or regular. Because actually children with special needs, they learn a lot being around regular kids. They have this thing called mirror effect, where they're always watching you, they're watching what is the social norm, how to behave in social setting. And that's how they learn how to assimilate into regular society when they're older. If they're always kept at home and they're only interacting with other special needs kids, then where are they going to learn social situation?
Well,
right?
I would say that kids, especially in martial arts, is very, very simple.
Yeah.
You don't need to teach all the kids. You need to teach the senior student.
Yep.
You need the senior student to be really good, and then it's like a waterfall. And from my philosophy, we specialize in small groups. I'm very, very passionate about that. We're the only full-time Choi Kwando school that I know that specializes in these small groups. The other ones that, like the models I learned from, they have 50 in a class, 70 in a class even, because it's far more profitable to do it in that way. However, you don't end up with giving them the same individual attention. But the basics of martial art education is that you teach the black belts teach the blue belts teach the white belts. That's the basic of it. It's supposed to like trickle down. And in terms of opening a new location or any of these things in terms of martial arts schools, you need one follower. You need one good follower, because everybody will mimic that one good follower, and you need to manage that relationship because people will copy. And that's the thing about leadership. You can extend it just to leadership. The followers, they don't mimic the leader. You don't have 100 people talking. You have one person talking, 99 people listening. So you have the first follower is key. Key in leadership is like absolutely essential in martial arts. And so for kids, being in that environment, for all kids, very, very important. In that group lessons. I think group lessons are a very, very powerful way to learn. Because they learn from each other. Also, so much of the enjoyment comes from being in a group
Yes.
and enjoying it.
Yes.
Having a laugh together.
Yep.
You know, the joke is not funny. I tell the most hilarious jokes to my cat. Okay, but I don't have as much fun
Yeah.
as when I tell a joke to a pretty girl, or when I tell the joke to a group of people.
Yep.
Right? If I'm with my family,
Yep.
we all laugh about a joke, or if I'm with
Yep.
my friends, we all laugh about a joke because we enjoy it together.
Yep.
You know, and I think that learning can be very, very fun.
Yes.
It can be one of the things that we enjoy most.
Yep.
Is developing new skills, developing new traits, a hobby or a passion. Especially passion is one of those things that
Yep.
is very finicky. I don't know, pernickety. I don't know. I only know Scottish words for this stuff. It's like it's very hard to get passion. It needs to be carefully managed because if it's extinguished, it's hard to get back again.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that those group environments can really do a lot.
Yep.
They can really do a lot.
Because also group dynamic influences the way your child also the kind of how do you say perspectives and viewpoints that your child has. You know, if you're in a group where everybody is like if they kind of cannot get it right the first time, but people are encouraging in the group, then the kid learns that it's okay to not get it right, and you can slowly, rather than a group where
having a mix of levels.
mix of
levels in the
yes.
group. Yeah, that's another one. There's some martial arts schools, they run the model, red belts at this time, black belts at that time. Little doses of that can be good, and it can be a useful tool. But as a default, it's great to have a mix of levels, and even within a class, you have students who are at different stages of their current skill that they're developing.
Yep.
So some people, they've been introduced to a new skill, even that could be an advanced skill. So their reality, their experience is that they're taking on quite a lot.
Yep.
They have a lot of stimulation. They have a new challenge, and then you might have someone that's actually a beginner but is good at the beginner stuff.
Yep.
So their experience, they've kind of mellowed. Their learning curve in terms of the content has kind of plateaued. But socially, they could be doing a lot of learning at that time because they're feeling more confident, they're feeling more settled. Maybe they get partnered with one of the more advanced students, right? Or in martial arts, especially in Choi Kwando, you teach sometimes the ones who are younger than you. You help a little bit. You guide them and mentor them. Akash has been doing that recently, especially now he has his friend. That's very nice. He brought his friend. Once in a while, I see, this is a great time for Akash, who's been training for a few years, to teach his friend who's a white belt.
Yeah.
And you see that little interaction. You think, this is cool, man. This is very cool.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think that like inclusive education, the first key thing is the group size.
Yep.
Big groups, it's really difficult to manage. And I think that it's the challenge with martial arts in general, martial arts in Malaysia. Why is it that it's difficult for people with special needs, or even not just people with special needs? Why is it difficult for people to enjoy martial arts? Why is it difficult for many people to pursue it? It's because the groups are too big. And I understand that it's an economic circumstance. If you look at the price of your average taekwondo class as an activity in school, it's very cheap compared to getting a private, a smaller style of lesson. So that's what really one of the massive challenges is, that you need these activities to have a certain scale to either be financially sustainable if your fees are very low, or to be profitable if it's as a business. And that small group, you really need to be like a social enterprise. And I see choices in that light. And I'm very fortunate. My local partner is fully on board with the mission of what this does in KL. What is this in the context of Malaysia in terms of education? It's about a certain attitude to education. I'm really fortunate that is top priority. And there'll be a business around that philosophy, right? But it's not a case of business first and doctrine and policies second, right?
Yeah, because you will attract the kind of audience that agree with your philosophy, and there may be like a lot of people out there, but you have to really show it, right, in the things that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. And so with inclusive education, that's one sort of it's one angle, and just to kind of double down on this point, we haven't had it, and I'm really glad we've never had anyone say, "Oh, why is my child in the same class as someone with Down syndrome," for example. We haven't had that situation, and but I think that if we were the sort of place that was saying we train Olympic athletes, or we have a team that goes to these competitive events, which many martial arts schools, that is their model. They train you for international competition. If we were in that, if that was our brand and that was our mission, then I think that it would be very difficult for us to be inclusive in the same way, right? Because we're now, you need to like merit a place. And that merit is now becoming these external factors related to performance and outcomes. That's just not what we're about at all. And I think that there's doing something, number one, because you enjoy it, doing it with other people, enjoying it with other people, that is immensely positive. And I think that's how you ultimately develop a passion, because your motivation is intrinsic. It's not like I enjoy playing chess as long as I'm winning. Or I enjoy doing fencing as long as I'm winning, or swimming as long as I've got the fastest time. You enjoy it because there's a community. And it's been probably my biggest learning as an instructor and as the steward of a martial art community, is like, that's what I got from my childhood that my mum was good at, but you never see what your mum is good at. Let's be honest. Right? God forbid we knew that our mothers were good at something. So it was those little things, like we used to go to the cinema once in a while when a martial art movie came out. Of course, we're going to see it with the Choi Kwon Do people. Of course. These types of things, right? And so I think that community is the key, right? And like you said, if if all of education was natural, and people who are special needs were represented naturally as they occur in the population, then it would just be it would be like kind of a non-issue.
I think so, because actually I feel like inclusivity and inclusion is not about a grand gesture. We can have a policy, we can have all these things, government policy and everything, but then even in a school, so many schools I went to, they say, we're inclusive, and I have this special needs expert. But in the end, I think it's just about very small things you can do daily, like the teacher's willingness to listen to me about my child's condition, what my challenges my child is going through, how we can adapt it together, how we can work together. And I think as a society and even as a global population now, we can see a lot of conflict happening in the world today, right? And this is because we are not inclusive of other people who are different from us. It boils down to that, actually, because you think about it, even if you're not born with a disability, you can get a disability from an accident, an illness, like what happened during COVID. A lot of people fell sick. And then, actually at that time, it was very eye-opening for me also. I saw a lot of people in our community. You felt like, wow, that guy is so good. He went around in this boat and he was helping people. I mean, at that time, even the floods, there were some people going to rescue other people. Like, what motivates somebody who has nothing to do with those people? What motivates them to go and save other people in a situation like that, right? You didn't have to, right? You can just stay at home and be safe. Who are those people? And it made me think, how were they brought up? What kind of parents they had? What kind of things that their parents did for them when they were small, that they became people like that, who are they think about larger groups of people rather than their own family. And then I thought about, like, how come those people, how were they educated? what kind of education system did they have? Did they go to regular school? Did they go to a special school? Did they have a special experience? So it made me think about that. And I think now also I see like my parents are growing older. I feel like it's quite hard for them when you grow. It's very hard when you grow old. You really need to have caring family members and children. So you think, and there are a lot of people also, they kind of abandon their parents and things like that. So you think, actually inclusivity is not just about, like you said, it's not just about special needs. It's about building a caring society and a caring community, a country or a neighborhood or a place that we want to live in, where if something happens to us, even if you're not special needs, some problem happens to us, we want other people around us to give us support, to help us, to give us the kind of empathy that we want. So I feel, because for me in the initial years when I was advocating for Isha, it's like it didn't really sit so well with me. It's like, please, help, please be nice to her, be kind to her.
Oh, the charity.
Yeah, what is in it for them?
Yeah.
If I didn't have a child with special needs, I mean, I wouldn't really care so much about special needs things. I would maybe make a donation for some event if someone asked me, but then why should I care so much about your child with special needs? And I think it's the what's in it for me kind of thing that I kept thinking of. Then it made me realize that actually it's not about that. So it's just about it's a larger society. Because if you think about it, all children have special needs.
Yeah, these people are outliers.
Yeah.
They're statistical outliers. They're like I kind of refer to them as extreme cases.
Yeah.
But if you're handling those well, then it reflects well on
You can
all the
handle-
milder
yeah,
ones. Yeah,
yeah.
all the milder ones. That's my
Yeah.
my kind of view on it. If you've got a system that accommodates these people seamlessly
Yes.
and everything works well,
Yes.
well then there'll be all sorts. Like you mentioned the kindergarten with Miss Jin.
Which one?
Miss Jin, you mentioned the kindergarten.
Oh, the teacher Jane. Yeah, teacher Jane. Yeah.
Jane.
Jane.
Sorry, I got the name wrong.
It's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. And then they end up being, that becomes something that they're known
Yes,
for,
yes.
because they've got those kind of outliers. Means that you're good with
Yes,
all the ones before.
yes.
And a quick aside, you mentioned about the parents and the elderly. A movie that came out recently that's been quite a buzz in KL, How to Make a Million.
Yeah,
Before
I want to see
Grandma
that
Dies.
film. I haven't seen
Have you
it. No.
I saw it.
I want to watch it.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
really it could bring a tear to a glass eye.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really
Cool,
good.
cool. I must
was
go and
really
watch it.
good.
Yeah, I've been wanting to watch it, but nobody in my family wants to go with me.
Yeah, you should watch it before it won't be in
Yeah,
cinemas
I
for
know,
much
I know.
longer.
I
especially
really
all
need to
these
go and
things
watch
coming
it.
out.
Yeah.
Better in cinema. lah.
Yeah. Better in cinema. Yeah.
Better in cinema, yeah.
I know. I heard a lot about that film. I think. Yeah. So to me, this special needs thing. I tell you one story that's kind of funny. When Isha was small, she was in the reception class. Akash went into she's always a year behind him.
Right.
So it's quite good because I know what to expect in the next year. And he went to grade 1 and she was in reception, which is the kind of like after kindergarten and before grade 1, right? And she only had one other classmate. There was this kid in class. This little Indian boy, very, very tiny little Indian boy. And then she's quite tough lah, for even somebody with Down syndrome. She's quite tough. So she's because she grew up with a brother at home. So the funny thing was, for some strange reason, during one period, she kept punching him. She kept punching him, punch him really hard, And then the guy would be like quite traumatized by it. But then actually this kid was like her best friend in class, because he was like her only friend in the class, and they're very close. But we didn't understand why. Then we saw actually during break time, what we realized was Akash was playing very rough with a lot of his other little boys in his class. Like, boys that like to rough house.
Yeah.
So she saw it as like, oh, this is how you play with your friends. The people that you like, this is how you're very rough. You punch them and you kind of do that. And then she started doing that. And then for a while, we couldn't get her to stop, for a while. And none of the teachers are trained to handle this situation, special needs or whatever. So in the end, after a while, we have to remove that word, like, don't punch him. We mustn't say that word at all. And then we go into positive mode. And the teacher, for that 1 week, we took a lot of time trying to understand what was happening. And then after that, they later on got other children to kind of like, in a way, reprimand her. So they got the classroom involved. Then the other little kids from the other classes, they learn also how to manage a situation if one child is displaying not antisocial behavior, how to correct it as a class, how you monitor that kid, tell them you cannot do that. So they involve everybody. So I felt like it was a group learning experience,
Yeah.
even for those other kids, you see. Then they realize that don't always have to have teacher policing you all the time. You know, you can learn how to police yourself and how to manage the situation. So she has many incidences like that in class, which I feel like it helps other children also learn about the how to manage being in a situation with different situations.
Yeah, and they're in terms of soft skills,
Yeah.
character development, they're learning. There's
Yeah,
big
yeah,
learning
yeah.
there. Let me play devil's advocate for a minute.
Yep.
Right. So we've been speaking a lot, both of us, about the merits in terms of soft skills, in terms of character development, that inclusive environments, that inclusive education environments play. What about the more mainstream perspective of A stands for average? My child needs to have all A's, right? B is bad, A plus across the board. You know, to shove tuition down their throats until they get there. That's the way forward. So, what about for parents who would feel like an inclusive environment ultimately takes away from their academic performance?
Okay.
What's your view on that?
My view on that, because I have a neurotypical child.
Yeah.
Okay. I can talk about it from the perspective of Akash.
Yeah.
He still manages to achieving is still important for a regular child. You know, for him, he likes achievement, but it is not the only thing that motivates him.
Yes.
Nowadays, I can see that he is not always super nice to his sister, to everybody's eyes. Sometimes at home they'll fight, you know, just like normal siblings do. But I can see that his viewpoint on the world is different. So, for example, he is a more graceful competitor in a way, because he has a best friend in class. Is a girl, and she's like a high performer. And sometimes they win and lose, you know, in certain battles they have with each other from the academic standpoint or from other things. But you can see that when they lose, they don't feel like angry. Oh, I'm so angry at you because I lost to you. I am. It's okay. Sometimes I lose, and I'm motivated to do better. So they don't see it the achievement as the ultimate outcome. It's more like a process, right?
This is very interesting because this is the foundation of a growth mindset.
Yes, growth mindset. That's right.
Yeah. So growth mindset, is really about, and you look at across the board, top level performers.
Yep.
They take the L's cleanly. They take the losses well. It's naive to think that any human will go through their life without taking negative experiences and without failing. It's how you take the failure and what lessons you learn. And even best, can you learn from other people's failure?
Yep.
Learning from other people's mistake is much more efficient. Having the humility to take your own losses well.
Yep.
And it's really a type of intelligence. And so I think that one of the kind of key points for us as well is that long term, what is the achievement that a child makes in primary school or in secondary school, is that the pinnacle of achievement in their life?
Yep.
Across the board, we'd say no. Ultimately, what we want is for them to learn a mindset that will lead them to achievement more significantly later in their life. So it's the growth mindset is what we want them to learn.
Yep.
And I think that an inclusive education environment better teaches a growth mindset.
Yes.
Because you are an ultra competitive environment can get quite toxic.
Yep.
And you can get a lot of pressure, And those people don't tend to be the most confident because their
Yes.
confidence is so extrinsic. They have a
Yes.
lot of that external validation.
Yep.
And if they stop getting the external validation, it can be really difficult for them
Yes.
because their whole system is fueled on
Yep,
these
and
endorphins
awards and all those
and
things.
awards.
Yep.
Correct. And if and some people, they'll flop when they get out of school. They get out of that very structured environment. They get into the real world and they realize that there's more nuance to just being good at things.
Yep.
First of all,
Yep.
and also that success isn't linear.
Yep.
Sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down, and it's important to fall gracefully, and then
Yes.
pick yourself up again. You know,
I think it's important to be a good loser.
yes,
You know, you have to learn how to lose gracefully. You know,
Yes.
and I feel that that's what children today need to understand. It's not all about the award certificates that you get and everything, because in the end, ultimately, all those things, they're just like you said, it's external validation. What is important is inside of you, and I feel he also. He learns a lot of things which I think are valuable for life, because he always root for the underdog. You can see sometimes he can, yeah.
we always do.
Yeah, but some people, they don't like it. They want to be aligned with strong people.
Okay, I'll give you one example. Malaysians and their football teams.
Okay.
Malaysians and their football teams. Who supports Johor?
I know.
Who supports Selangor? Who supports KL? Everyone, Manchester United,
Yeah.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
Whoever was successful when they were a kid.
Yeah.
That's the team that they support.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can support you. Of course, everybody likes to be aligned with a winning team or a winner. But that at the same time, you also need a few people who can empathize with the one that, like, you know, the little bit of an underdog in school. You know, always looking out for a little. I'm not saying he's like so. He's also not like this noble child that always does all these right things or whatever. But I think largely because they are in an inclusive school environment, and I think he focuses, like in the IB system where the school is, that the school practices is actually, it more focuses on no ranking, no anything. It's all about rubric system where it's about you and you know. So
So
that's
no one is
why
top of the class.
there are awards, academic awards. Let's say for him in the middle years now, if you get 42, is the full score. For 6 subjects, you need to get 7. Okay, that's the full score. But you need at least a minimum of 6/7 for each of 6 subjects to get a 36 to get an academic award. But it's not
Okay.
ranked. It's
I
like
see.
if you reach this target, you get the award.
Yeah.
If you didn't, like this year, he's very bit like upset, because a little bit upset because like 35/36. He just missed it by 1 point, but he has to acknowledge that he was a little bit lazy. He didn't do enough, and then he has to acknowledge that some things, like the teacher, we went through with the teacher, said, oh, you know, this one he actually needed to give 3 points. He was careless. He didn't read the question properly. He just answered 1 question out of the 2. So she gave him the max points. He couldn't give him any. So it's a difficult lesson. It's that 1 point, but then I feel like it's a good lesson. You know, it will be something that will stick to you, like that thing going for awards day and seeing the other person get it, your main competitor, and feeling, well, a bit sorry for yourself. But actually, what is it? You did it to yourself, you know. Nobody, it's not an external thing that happened that stopped you from doing it.
It's not like there were, first place, second place,
Yeah.
third place. It's different.
Yes, you are your own obstacle in that
Yeah.
situation. So I feel like these are very important learning lessons, because that's why Isha can fit into the system also, because it doesn't really matter about Isha getting very high scores. It's about, did Isha end of the school year, is she a much improved version of the person that she
Yes.
was in the beginning of the year? If
Yeah.
she is, then I think it's a win already.